Whispers of Murder in the North, Ironwood, Michigan, a place where the cold isn't just a season, but a way of life. The town, nestled in the northern reaches, is a stark reminder of a bygone era, a town forged in iron, hardened by blizzards, and shrouded in secrets. The factories, once the lifeblood of Ironwood, now stand as silent sentinels, their machinery frozen in time, much like the town itself. Its heart, once a furnace of industry, now beat to the rhythm of fading memories. The echoes of hammers and the clanging of metal have long since faded, replaced by the eerie silence of abandonment. The mine, a slumbering giant, held the town in its shadow. It was the backbone of Ironwood, providing not just jobs but a sense of purpose. Now, it stands as a monument to the past, its entrance sealed by time and snow. It was here, by the rusted tracks, that the body was found, a grim discovery that would shatter the fragile peace of this quiet town. A drifter, they called him, just passing through. A man with no ties to Ironwood, no reason to stay. Yet, in death, he became a permanent fixture in the town's dark history. But death had a way of making you stay. The body, covered in a blanket of snow, was a stark contrast to the pristine white landscape. It was a scene that would haunt the town for years to come. The town was a chorus of hushed whispers. Fear and suspicion spread like wildfire as the townsfolk tried to make sense of the tragedy that had befallen them. Fear, like the biting wind, seeped into every corner. The once tight-knit community now found itself unraveling as trust became a rare commodity. This wasn't supposed to happen here, not anymore. Ironwood had seen its share of hardships, but murder was something that belonged to the past, a dark chapter they thought they'd left behind. The Ironwood Police Department, ill-equipped for a homicide, let alone murder, scrambled for answers. Their experience lay in handling minor disputes, not unraveling the complexities of a cold-blooded killing. They wouldn't find any, not alone. The case was a labyrinth of dead ends and unanswered questions, a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. This case, as cold as the iron ore beneath their feet, needed a different breed. The arrival of the FBI brought a glimmer of hope, a chance that perhaps justice could be served. The agents, with their experience and resources, were the town's best hope in uncovering the truth behind the whispers of murder in the North. Agent Monroe arrives in Ironwood. Agent Laura Monroe, her breath misting in the frigid air, stepped off the plane and into the heart of the storm. The FBI had sent their best. A woman of quiet intensity, her eyes sharp as glacial ice, missed nothing. She had a reputation, a knack for getting inside the heads of monsters. Ironwood wasn't her first rodeo. The Rust Belt towns, with their hollowed-out factories and forgotten dreams, held a grim familiarity. She could smell the fear, taste the desperation in the air. It clung to her like the scent of iron and decay. The Drifter and the Queen of Spades. John Red Henderson. That was the drifter's name, or at least the one he died with. His past, like his future, was cut short. A single playing card, the Queen of Spades, lay beside his outstretched hand. A calling card, a taunt.
He saw the card, the way the Fed's eyes lit up, and he knew. This wasn't just some drifter, this was something different, something worse.
Jurisdiction and distrust. The tension crackled between them, thick as the ice on Lake Superior. It was a cold, biting tension that seemed to freeze the very air around them, making every breath a laborious task. The stakes were high and the pressure was palpable. Hargrove, with his faded Stetson and world-weary eyes, saw the FBI's arrival as an indictment. To him, it was more than just a professional slight. It was a personal affront. He had spent decades serving this community, knowing every nook and cranny, every face and story, a failure on his part. The arrival of the feds was a glaring reminder of his perceived inadequacies, a spotlight on his vulnerabilities.
"This is my town, Agent Monroe," he growled, his voice rough as gravel. His words were laced with a mix of pride and desperation, a plea masked as a command. "We take care of our own." Hargrove's declaration was more than just a statement. It was a creed, a way of life that had been passed down through generations of lawmen in Ironwood.
"Not this time, Sheriff," Agent Monroe countered, her voice calm but resolute. She had seen this kind of resistance before, the territorial disputes that often arose in cases like these. "This is bigger than Ironwood." Her words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation. The small town was just a piece of a much larger puzzle. This is bigger than all of us. She knew the drill. Monroe had been through this dance before. The delicate balance of asserting federal authority while respecting local jurisdiction. Small-town cops and big city feds, they never mixed well. The cultural clash was inevitable, each side wary of the other's methods and motives. But lives were at stake. The urgency of the situation demanded cooperation, no matter how uneasy the alliance. And time, she could feel it, was running out. Every second that ticked by was a reminder of the lives hanging in the balance, the families waiting for answers, the community on edge. The clock was their enemy, and it was relentless.
The body count rose with the snowdrifts. Duluth, Superior, Marquette, each victim seemingly unconnected, each with a playing card left as a grim memento. The Queen of Spades, the Jack of Diamonds, the Ace of Clubs. A pattern was emerging. But what did it mean? The pressure mounted. The media descended, hungry for answers. The whispers grew louder, feeding the fear that gnawed at the edges of the investigation. Agent Monroe found herself working late into the night, the glow of her computer screen reflecting in her tired eyes. She felt like she was chasing shadows, each clue leading to a dead end. The playing cards, they haunted her dreams. Each suit, each rank, a twisted message from a mind shrouded in darkness. She consulted with profilers, with card sharks, with anyone who might offer a glimmer of insight. The killer was playing a game. But what were the rules? She stared at the faces of the victims, searching for a connection, a common thread. They were different ages, different backgrounds. What united them in death? The answer, she knew, lay in the mind of the killer. Death in Duluth. The call came in the dead of night. Another murder, this time in Duluth. A young woman, her life brutally extinguished, the King of Hearts clutched in her lifeless hand.
"He's escalating."
"He's getting bolder."
Agent Monroe met Detective Frank Morales at the scene. He was a hardened detective, his face etched with the weariness of 1,000 investigations. Monroe nodded, her gaze fixed on the victim. The killer was sending a message, but what was it? New horizons, dark secrets. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A social worker in Duluth, her voice trembling on the phone, spoke of a local nonprofit organization, New Horizons. All the victims, it turned out, had sought help from this organization at some point in their lives. New Horizons presented itself as a beacon of hope, offering support and guidance to those in need. But beneath the veneer of compassion lurked something sinister. The face behind the cards, Peter Lasky. The name sent a chill down Agent Monroe's spine. A former volunteer at New Horizons, Lasky had a history of violence and a deep-seated resentment towards those he deemed unworthy of help. He saw himself as a judge, a jury, and an executioner.
The arrest was swift, the evidence overwhelming.
Lasky's apartment was a shrine to his twisted game, filled with playing cards, maps, and news clippings of his crimes.
I did it. They deserved it.
He confessed to the murders, his voice devoid of remorse, his eyes gleaming with a chilling detachment. Justice served, scars remain. The courtroom was filled with an air of tension and anticipation as the trial of Peter Lasky, infamously known as the playing card killer, reached its climax. The faces of the jury were stern, the judge's gavel poised to deliver the final blow. The trial was a media circus, with reporters and paparazzi swarming the courthouse steps, eager to capture every moment. The nation was captivated by the chilling tale of the playing card killer, a story that had gripped the public's imagination and sent shivers down their spines. Headlines screamed of his heinous acts, and news anchors dissected every detail of the case. The public was both horrified and fascinated by the macabre details of Lasky's crimes, each one more gruesome than the last. Lasky was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison, his twisted games silenced forever. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom, a final declaration of justice. As Lasky was led away in handcuffs, a collective sigh of relief seemed to wash over the room. His new home, a cold gray prison cell, would be where he spent the rest of his days. Justice had been served, but the scars remained. Ironwood, Duluth, and the other towns touched by Lasky's darkness would forever bear the weight of his crimes. The memories of his victims lingered like shadows, a constant reminder of the pain he had inflicted. In these small towns, the atmosphere was somber, the streets quieter than usual. Community memorials with flowers and candles stood as silent tributes to the lives lost. The townspeople, though relieved by the verdict, knew that healing would be a long and arduous journey. Agent Monroe, haunted by the faces of the victims, spent countless hours poring over crime scene photos, each image a stark reminder of the lives cut short. The weight of the case bore heavily on her shoulders, a burden she carried with quiet determination. She knew that some wounds never truly heal. The families of the victims, their lives forever altered, found solace in support groups, where they shared their grief and sought comfort in each other's company. Tears were shed, stories were told, and in those moments, they found a semblance of peace. But she also knew that even in the darkest of places, hope could still flicker. Candlelight vigils were held, and as the sun rose over the quiet towns, there was a sense of renewal. The community, though scarred, began to rebuild, finding strength in their unity, and that sometimes the only way to outrun the shadows was to face them head-on. With each step forward, they moved towards healing, determined to reclaim their lives from the darkness that had once consumed them. The journey was far from over, but with resilience and hope, they knew they could find their way back to the light.